Hey, well, coffee. So how sustainable is coffee? In this video, I'll be talking about what contributes to making coffee so unsustainable in the way it's currently consumed. The same will also actually apply to tea. Towards the end of the video, I will share different things to consider to drastically improve your impact and actually hopefully make coffee consumption possibly positive for the environment. We'll get started with the most obvious thing when it comes to coffee consumption or the coffee industry is the way it's being farmed. So obviously, this clears out rainforests. When you clear out rainforests, it means biodiversity loss, it means loss of habitat, it means soil erosion. And this type of aggressive agriculture means that there is pesticide and fertilizer use. And when there's this overuse of pesticides and fertilizers, it means it's going into land and it's going into our waterways. Of course, the consumer is also taking this in, and something that is not usually mentioned is the exposure of these of the farmers to these chemicals. A lot of the times, farmers will not use the protective and necessary gear to use these fertilizers and pesticides, whether it's because it's too hot for them. Sometimes the weather is a factor. Sometimes they just don't know the instructions or they just don't want to follow them. So this is actually having negative consequences also on the farmer. Now, you can read up, of course, on the negative impact of this type of agriculture. There's a lot of information out there. But what I want to get to in this video is what is really contributing to making coffee so unsustainable. And to do so, I'm going to use an example, which is Finland. I'm sorry, Finland, but um, 8 or 9 cups a day of coffee is the norm in Finland. So Finland, how far is Finland away from the countries that produce coffee? So coffee is usually produced in South America. That's the biggest volume and mostly in Brazil. So this coffee is having to go all the way from Brazil to Finland and all the other countries, of course, but we're using Finland here as an example. And in Finland, it's being consumed with such frequency, 8 to 9 cups a day. Now, it just doesn't seem to add up to transport such volumes to a place to be consumed in a place where this simply doesn't grow. So this means to just put a number here, the global coffee production reached 168.5 million 60-kilogram bags. So the range is somewhere between 168, 100 in the 170s per year, right? So to supply this demand. Now, if we're going to consider these distances that the coffee is traveling, what is also included in that? The packaging. So what types of packaging is usually used? You have plastic, paper, metal, cans, tins, just different types of pouches. Just all of these, a lot of times they're mixed materials. And what do we know about the packaging industry and recycling? So for depending on recycling, the example I'll give here is just the US, and only 5 to 6% of plastics are recycled in the US. So this packaging is likely going to landfill, right? So this contributes to the issue. Now, I'm going to talk about tea, which will cover very much of the similar issues with the way it's being planted. However, there's the additional issue of the tea bag and the microplastic pollution that comes from that. And of course, that also impacts the health of the consumer. So possibly the packaging of tea is not as material intensive as coffee, but certainly has its issues. Now that we've addressed what is really contributing to making it so unsustainable, what can we do to make this more sustainable? Income, organic coffee, organic tea, ethical, you'll also hear the word ethical. All that is great. But if the same frequency, volume is still being consumed, then drinking coffee, even if it's organic, even if it's from an ethical source, it simply cannot be sustainable because of the distances it's having to travel, of course, in addition to the quantity, the distances it's having to travel, and also let's look at the packaging. So even if it's organic, the packaging is still an issue. So what can we do here? What is the thing to consider? Can you drink coffee and tea in lower quantities? So instead of having it every day or several times a day, can you have it twice a week, 3 times a week? I know that this will probably not be something that you would look forward to or want to do, but let's look at the positive sides of this. And let's look at some alternatives that you can choose to replace the daily consumption of coffee and tea. What can you use to replace that? And, the benefits of doing so. Okay, so first of all, if you reduce your consumption of coffee every day, you're saving money, right? So maybe money is not an issue, right? But let's just look at this. So women spend about $2,327 per year on coffee. Men tend to spend $400 less per year. So this is for Americans. This is just a figure here. But consider if you decreased your consumption of mass-produced coffee, right? And instead invested in higher quality coffee that's from organic, ethical practices and decreased the times that you drink it. So this means that you will effectively be saving money there, right? So I like to highlight that a lot of times becoming more sustainable means saving money, which because it has such a negative image of being, oh, everything that's sustainable is more expensive. No, if you change to a sustainable practice, then you'll actually be saving money. Now, so what else can you use to, or what else can you replace? What can you replace this coffee and tea that you are drinking with? How about growing some herbs on your windowsill? First of all, you'll be avoiding all the packaging. You'll be avoiding all the pesticides and fertilizers. This will also have a positive effect on health as you're no longer exposed to as much packaging and fertilizer and pesticides that will be in your coffee and tea. And it is certainly cheaper to grow that on your windowsill. It's free. It will eventually be free. So it costs very little to start and it will be free. So this here is what I wanted to share to make coffee and tea consumption more sustainable. Yes, let's switch to organic, let's switch to ethical, but most importantly, we need to decrease the volume of consumption, which can be not only beneficial to the environment, which I also want to add, when you're investing in these organic businesses and these ethical businesses and basically not giving your money to this everyday consumption from the big mega companies that are making billions off of this, you're also contributing to decreasing the negative impact from their farming practices because they're not going to grow it as much. This is what I wanted to share. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.